her a piece of the camera for this film director, about a month ago. She wanted to send a video message to so she stood me by this church here, and I did a piece of the camera, and I said, well, Mr. Eastwood, doesn't this remind you of some of your old movies? Because if you were to paint this white, doesn't it look like a Mexican mission chapel? It doesn't.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But this was built in 1080. Imagine, 1080 this was built.
What is the name of the church?
1080. And this is on the site of a much earlier church.
And it lasts long?
Yeah,
like
because
this?
believe it or not, in England, in the 700s, if you lived in south of England, where you were under the influence of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and you lived in the north here, when you were more under the influence of Durham and north of the country, you celebrated Easter at different times of the year.
Oh.
And they couldn't decide on when Easter should be celebrated. And so St Wilfrid was a bishop. St Wilfrid, the church at Scrooby was St Wilfrid. He headed up a synod, and it was held here, and the formula was worked out for fixing the date of Easter. And when we go into the porch, there's a stone that probably predates this church and goes back to that wooden church which stood here before, where the synod was held. So yes, 1080, imagine that. 1080.
So if somebody died, they still use it?
Yes, yeah, there's recent burials here.
You didn't have to pay or anything?
Oh yes, you pay for your plot. I think it's about £1,000 for a plot in the churchyard. Now, I wonder if they've left the key. Not sure if she's been yet.
Oh,
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe. She may not have been yet. Yeah. You don't see this.
Oh, I just
We
see
did
it.
that too. We did that at home too.
The church warden can't unlock the church today. She's left me the key. I will drop it off at her house as we go by, if that's okay. This is very iffy. Look at this. It's a tympanium, and if you look, that is a mythical beast called a witham. And this along the bottom, we believe, is the formula for working out Easter. It's got phases of the moon and the sun. So yes, this probably, and that goes back maybe even beyond the date of this church.
1080.
But look at these. In the old Knight, you heard of the Knight Templars, haven't you?
No.
Have you seen the Da Vinci Code film?
I heard about that in the
Well,
movie.
the Knight Templars were a holy order, and they had their own churches. And for a Templar church, very, very ancient, you're meant to be able to grab each column before you go into the church. Shows how old this one is. And you can just see all of this pie crust decoration. This is on the verge of Saxon and Norman. We're just going from our old Saxon ways into the Norman French style of doing things, because they were great church builders, the Normans. They're low energy bulbs. Oops, just going to go over here. Now this will interest you. You're very fond of the Pilgrim Fathers, aren't you? Right, get your hand. This is the lead liner of a font. This is the font that William Bradford was baptised in. He was baptised in here. This liner goes back to his time. They're very rare lead liners. You can see how it's been repaired. But he was baptised here, William Bradford, as a baby.
The year?
1589 old style, 1590 new style.
Okay.
You understand the old and new style?
No.
Often when you're reading books, history books about Pilgrim Fathers, you will have, as in William Bradford's time, he was born 1589 stroke 90. It's not that we didn't know when he was born, it's just back in those days, New Year did not begin on January the 1st. So if you were born in the spring, before Ladies' Day, which is at the end of March, it was the year before. And the new year didn't begin until the end of March.
I see.
So that's why you get two different days. So he was born in 1590, but it will say 1589 in the actual register. And it says 1589 on here as well. Because when they did this window, I don't think that even the church here realised, because they hadn't got an academic with them, they didn't realise that actually, no, it's the next year, it's 1590. And that's beautiful, that window, isn't it? Do you like that, Noel? Do you know, when that was put in, and it's not that old, I think it's only about 20 odd years old, when it was put in, right, the women complained. Because where are the women? There's William Bradford with his Geneva Bible outside the church. Here are all the men signing the compact. There's the Mayflower. But the women are a big part of this story and they're forgotten. It's like they're airbrushed out of history. None of this would have happened without the women behind them, would it? No.
Right.
So they took it away and look, can you just see on that grassy knoll, they put in a tiny pilgrim mother and a child.
Oh.
Very tiny. Now the other thing I have to point out, and I don't mind pointing it out to you, but born and bred Americans do not get very happy with me when I point out the coat of arms. Because every church would have had a royal coat of arms. And it would have taken prominence at the front of the church, just so everybody knew who the head of the church was. Over the centuries now, it's moved to the side of the church, but this one is King George III. So I usually have the Americans here going, boo! But yeah, so that's King George.
I heard some American expression, they kind of kidding British people and said that the mature people don't want monarch.
But they're quite rare. When you think they're only done on board, you know, they're painted on board, and English churches are damp. It's a very damp climate. It's amazing that any of the interior of the churches survive without, you know, going musty and mouldy, or even the church record. We still have registers, some dating back to 1558, where you can read every entry, but how they survived, it's very hit and miss. So when you're doing genealogy, some places will have records, others won't. But it's a beautiful little church. It's very Romanesque. It's a very Romanesque style church, very ancient, and you just get that feeling, don't you? You can feel it. And I love this little church.
Still have service every Sunday, right?
Services here, but they suspend them in the depth of winter for about 3 months because it is so cold in here, and it's only a very tiny congregation. So they actually suspend it. Of course, they will have their Christmas Day service, but otherwise they don't because it is just so cold, and they can't heat it. No, they have got boilers, but very ancient Victorian, and it struggles, and it is, you can see your breath in front of it, you know, in here, easily.